Okay, I'd like to call to order the Mobile GR Commission meeting on June 6, 2024 at 12 o'clock. Welcome everybody. The Commission provides input on parking and mobility-related activities to programs to department staff and makes recommendations to the City Commission on policies related to these activities. As members of the public, you have two opportunities. You can provide comments. You can provide comments related to items on our agenda during the first public comment period, and at the end of the meeting, you can provide general comments. As a reminder, we're not able to respond to your comments directly, but we are listening and we use your feedback to inform future decisions. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lunger? Here. Commissioner Withlink? Here. Commissioner Clark? Here. Commissioner Robbins? Commissioner Pavelka is excused. Chairperson Nguyen?
Here.
Vice Chair Mathis is excused. Commissioner Kampmeyer is excused. Commissioner Sesa? Here. Commissioner Haynes? Here. Commissioner Patton? Here. Commissioner Rozelle is excused, and Commissioner Nienhuis is also excused.
Okay. First order of business are the approval of the minutes for May 2nd, 2024. It was in our packets. Are there any comments or corrections? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve. All right. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next agenda item, petitions and communications.
So we did receive some correspondence either on our commission day last month or after that, so I will be reading all of them and as well as two additional ones. So correspondence received from Amy Hinman on the west side in opposition of the RPP area.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Asia Patterson from Heritage Hill in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence received from Cheryl Tully from Heritage Hill in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence received from Brian Cody from Heritage Hill requesting survey results be corrected.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Cosette Carter on the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence received from Donna Opalwall on the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Ed Clifford from Heritage Hill in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Emily Sargent on the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Emma and Juan Garcia on the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Eve Clayton from Heritage Hill in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Jake Baker of the west side with a suggestion for moving forward. Received and filed. Correspondence from James Road, no location given in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Jan Skidema from Heritage Hill in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Jared Zimmer on the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Jason Miller on the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Jennifer Tanis from Heritage Hill in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Josh Brack on the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from J.P. Cooney Davis from the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Katie Tigshalar from Heritage Hill in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Kayleen Gramstrick on the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Leslie Matildes on the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Marcia Hoffman, no location given in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Melanie Gruder, no location given in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Michael Kasparek on the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Michael Mass from Heritage Hill in support of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Mike Tanis from Heritage Hill in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Naomi from the west side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Nathaniel Dubravik from the West Side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Paul Schulman from the West Side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Phil Kessling from Heritage Hill in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Susan McGarry from the West Side in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Tamara Fox from Heritage Hill in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Victoria Mullen, no location given in opposition of the RPP proposal.
Received and filed.
Correspondence from Mike Wilbraham with Showspan requesting an amendment to the adopted budget to lower parking rates.
Received and filed.
And correspondence from Adam Townell Williams, from a Second Ward resident, in support of parking rate increases.
Received and filed. So next, I'll open it up, the floor to public comment on agenda items. We would appreciate having members of the public attending the meeting today to identify yourselves before you provide comment. However, it's not required to give your name. Is there anyone that would like to step forward? All right, seeing none, I will close public comment period. Discussions, fiscal year 25 budget update. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So we're just going to give you a little briefing on what is coming up in the FY25 budget. So May 28th, the City Commission adopted the budget for FY25. Just to start off, we'll give you a little overview here of the department. We are in charge of all things parking, traffic safety, and mobility policy and planning related. We have over 70 full-time staff, as well as our contract and temp employees that support that vision to caretake a racially and socially equitable transportation system where people of all incomes, abilities, and ages have the freedom and resources to access places and opportunities freely and safely. So this is an overview of our operating budget for all of the different functions we just talked about. So our expenditure budget for this year is $31.1 million. The most major expense we have is for our personnel costs, followed by our contractual services, which would be things like the dash bus and our various contractors that do maintenance to our ramps and lots, as well as our traffic safety system, followed by our capital investments and some other expenses to run our department. Our revenues primarily come from the off-street parking system. We also receive a good chunk of our revenues from the gas and weight tax funding that comes from Act 51. So one of the primary focus areas of the City Commission for this budget was customer service, and to that end, we have added 3 positions to enhance customer service for our department. So one of those will be converting a temporary position into a full-time permanent position within our dispatch center. So that's our 24/7 operation that oversees our parking facilities as well as emergency calls. We also added a traffic technician and a sign fabricator. Those positions support things like traffic calming requests, barricading requests, and signage implementations. For the FY23 year, we received almost 13,000 incoming customer service inquiries, and that's just emails and applications that come into our customer service inbox. And on average, we resolve those in about 2 hours for all 13,000. So coming up in 25, we will have the next iteration of the commuter survey. So the last time that was done was 2022, and that's a survey that goes out throughout the region in order to get attitudes and input from the community about how they use transportation services in Grand Rapids. Another major focus was pedestrian safety. So we have several capital improvements that are going in this year, which includes the pedestrian hybrid beacon at Fulton and Gay, as well as 6 different rapid flashing beacons. And then we have about $900,000 to invest in pedestrian audible signals. So that's an accessibility enhancement for users who are sight limited or blind, who need the audible signals to transit on the roads. And then on the right there, you can see a big part of our pedestrian safety focus is in our education and messaging, so pushing out that message via our social media channels. We spent a lot of time talking about this in November and December of last year, but for those who weren't here at that time, we adopted the Parking Market Competitiveness Framework, And those are the principles that guide our rate decisions. So one of the priority areas, again, for commission was to resolve the parking rates to put us on a fiscally sound path for our fund. So we are balancing the principles of fiscal responsibility, economic development, market comparison, and operational efficiency when we set those rates in order to fund our department. So there are 3 primary rate changes that are happening this year. The most significant one there is going to affect the special event parking. So we are implementing a demand-based rate, which means if we have significant attendance projected for a different event, so whether that's a Van Andel Arena event that's going to have 10,000 or more people, or different factors like that, we would implement the higher rates in order to reduce congestion at some of those primary facilities and push people a little further out, or encourage people to look at other transportation options available to them to get to Grand Rapids and around Grand Rapids. The monthly parking system is going to have a 2% increase for standard parking rates, so that's the first time we've adjusted those since 2016. And then the metered on-street parking is getting an additional hour of enforcement. So that's another congestion mitigation strategy. We have overconsumption of the on-street system between 6 and 7 because people are coming home from work and they're parking right on the street and taking that free parking. For our parking capital fund, on the left there we have a graph of sort of the historical investments we've made. You can see that we're back up to that pre-pandemic number. We did have the ARPA supplemental funding for 2 years there, but we are back to fully funding all of our capital investments from parking operations funds. On the right, you can see a breakdown of the next 5 years where we're investing in capital. FY25 is more significant than the others because we have a pretty big amount due for asset maintenance, and that's going to be for things like improvements to parking structures to improve their longevity. So I'm going to go over some of the key projects. For the parking system, we have almost $1 million to improve bicycle facilities and the non-motorized network. We also have $700,000 to extend the neighborhood greenway program, and then $3 million, again, for the parking asset management there. We are continuing several of those equity projects that have been ongoing, which includes the car share pilot program, which brings the electrified vehicles to a lot of different neighborhoods throughout the city where we have limited access to transportation, and then investments in the transportation management, or the transportation demand management, which is primarily education campaigns to get people comfortable and used to the different options that they have for mobility. And then we will implement the expansion of the Lime Access Pass, which provides free transportation via the micromobility services for low-income users. On the traffic safety side, $939,000, that is for, again, the audible pedestrian signals for that accessibility improvement. We also have significant Vital Streets investments in the Vulnerable Road Users Grant Project, so that $635,000 is our local contribution. We also have grant funds coming to support the rest of that. And then we have $150,000 to continue the traffic calming program. I think that is it. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions?
Have you identified the locations for the audible signals?
I don't know that we have all of the first phase of those identified. That is going to be a multi-year investment. So it was originally projected at 10 years. Right now we've secured funding for year 1 of the program, so it's going to be looking at the highest priority locations and then moving out from there.
But we will be making sure that we make equal investments in each ward.
Yeah, in terms of the Vital Streets investments for the vulnerable roadway users, have you identified what projects you're going to be focusing on for that pot of money?
Yes, we do. We can get you a list. I can't read them off the top of my head, but that amount she said is a combination of like 4 or 5 different projects with different specific projects included. In your personal interest, the crossing at Leonard is included in that package for the design portion. And then just to update you on that, we are submitting tomorrow on a Michigan Shared Streets grant, and that is the location that we chose as a city to go after. And so we'll let you know the results of that, but we're working hard to get grant money to build all this stuff sooner.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Related to that, I do appreciate the focus on pedestrian safety in the budget. I think that's really important. And I do have, I guess, more of a comment on the messaging around the pedestrian safety that you're putting out on like social media and stuff. You had the example on the slide. I think that can be harmful to focus exclusively on what pedestrians should be doing to be safe and not put an equal or perhaps even more focus on what drivers should be doing to make sure that they're making safe decisions when they're operating their vehicles. It is a shared responsibility to have safety on the roads, but I would argue that it is an unequally shared responsibility with more focus should be on the driver education side because they are the ones operating a heavy vehicle that can kill someone. Person walking is unlikely to do that. So I would like to see more driver education around making sure that pedestrians and cyclists are safe versus telling pedestrians that they should be wearing bright clothing.
Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Dash update.
Good afternoon. I know I've had a chance to briefly introduce myself a couple of meetings ago, but I'm Max Dillevan. I was hired into the mobile GR department in February. Prior to this, I'll just give you a real brief background. Prior to this, I was with the Rapid for 5 years. One of my principal charges here at Mobile GR is going to be working, managing our Dash service. I bring in quite a few years of transit experience, so as you got from Andrea's presentation, the Dash is one of our largest expenditures, and I'm here to help bring a little bit of deeper analysis and expertise and scrutiny to ensuring the success of this program. So what we have here in front of you today are 2 monthly ridership and productivity reports. The intent is for these reports to be regular standard monthly reports that you receive for every single Mobile GR Commission meeting. And this will kind of allow us to track more intentionally and with a little finer grain of detail how the service is operating and where trends are leading us. Just looking at a simple ridership number only tells a very small part of the story. There's a lot more to dig through in terms of the data and behavior on the system as well. So with that, because these reports are new, and if it's all right with the body here, I will just go ahead and kind of walk through these reports since they're a little bit maybe unfamiliar to you all, and you're more than welcome to interrupt me and ask questions. But I think the intent for the future is just that these are kind of informational items. So like I said, we have 2 monthly reports, March and April here, and I'll go through these here. We have for the month of March, well, actually before that, maybe it just would be prudent to have just a really quick background of the Dash service and how we got here today. So for those of you who are new, the Dash underwent a pretty major transformation in 2018. There was frequency improvements, so shorter times between headways, later service hours, specifically on the weekends, and a full rebranding. That's kind of how we got to the fun pink buses. And there was a really heavy emphasis on user friendliness of the system to try to get folks who are maybe not as used to using transit to feel comfortable using the system. Then in May of 2023, that rebrand from 2018, we had the 2 Dash routes, north and west, that kind of bisect the city, north and south and east and west, were redesigned into a bi-directional loop. So we kind of go in a clockwise direction all around downtown and then also in a counterclockwise direction. During that time, there were some operator constraints experienced at the Rapid that didn't allow the service to be operated 7 days a week as was originally envisioned. So the decision was made to operate it Wednesday through Sunday, and a temporary stopgap measure of Dash work was implemented to serve the Dash West lots to some of the major employment hubs directly in the center city business district. So that kind of filled the gap there. For about the last year, actually, sorry, since January of this year, we were able to achieve that vision of 7-day-a-week service on the Dash Circulator, and we've seen some pretty major ridership gains since then. So for the month of March, ridership compared to the same month previous year, and that's pretty standard practice in transit to look at the same month of the prior year simply due to the seasonality of ridership. If you look month over month, it's not always an apples-to-apples comparison. Weather, events downtown, all these things have some pretty major impacts on just the usership of the system in general. So we're down by 1.8% in March. However, March 23 had an additional weekday, so that needs to be factored in. On page 61 of your packet, you'll see just a histogram of ridership by month with operating days indicated. So that kind of gives you a sense of, on a per day basis. Below that, there's a table of daily average ridership. And as I was alluding to, even though the monthly ridership was down by 1.8% on a per day basis, we're actually achieving higher ridership levels, which is encouraging. Page 62, we're looking at that average daily weekday service from 2024 compared to the previous year in 2023. We have a productivity measure of passengers per revenue hour. The main difference here, you'll notice, is that because we were operating Dash North and West just on a 6-day-a-week basis, we didn't have Sunday service. And now with the bidirectional circulator we do, there's a little bit better, reduced cost per passengers per revenue hour, between those 2 months because of some of that Sunday service. We're providing 7-day-a-week service, but Sundays, it's simply not as desirable. There's just less demand for travel on Sunday compared to the other days of the week. And there's also just a year-to-date ridership tracking, just how we're performing from the previous year as well. Page 63 of your packets has a ranking of the highest utilized stops. This gives us a sense of where that activity is occurring, what segments of the route are popular, where people are trying to go, and that's also helpful. Page 65 just gives us a sense of what times of the day people are using Dash. And we see that it follows sort of a peak sort of orientation there's a little bit of a spike at 8 and 9 o'clock as people are getting into work. But we see a lot of midday ridership during those noon to 5 hours as well. And the reports will conclude with a little bit of analysis and discussion, just some of those key takeaways from the data analyzed from that month's ridership. Any questions on March before I jump into April really quickly? Okay, all right. Really quick overview of April. We saw a 13.1% increase in the month of April. And really the major takeaway here is that since we were able to achieve that 7-day-a-week service, we've not only seen just a boost of adding in Monday and Tuesday onto the circulator, that alone is important, but we're also seeing a pretty major boost on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as well. Really, and what we're seeing is that it's a much more reliable service. Somebody who's looking to take Dash on their everyday commute or just for their everyday usage, it's just always there no matter which day. You don't have to think about, oh, is it Monday or is it Wednesday? Can I take the Dash day? That's kind of taken out of the equation. You just walk out to your stop and it's going to be there in a pretty brief period of time. So that's kind of in the transit world, the more you can have that regular, reliable service that's more counted on. It's the analogy I like to use is if your car's in your garage, but your garage is locked on Monday and Tuesday, or something like that, you're not able to get to your car. So it's that every day every day of the week is kind of that freedom to allow people to use the system when they need. And like I said, we were up by 13.1%. We've seen this gradual increase since we were able to achieve that 7-day-a-week service. On a per-day basis, we're still trending higher than we were in 2023. On page 68, you'll see that trend line heading up. And our ridership to date is catching up to where we were at in 2023, which is exciting, and I expect that to eclipse that amount in future months. No major change with the utilization of stops. We're kind of seeing that top 10 are still about the same month over month. Kind of some of the things that I found exciting about it was just the number of people heading to, using it to get to and from Rapid Central Station, so indicating that there's maybe some cross-pollination, folks using it to get to the regular fixed route system. Bridge Street, that's where a lot of folks are using it to get to restaurants, and Bridge Street Market, that's a major draw. And some other locations, like the main library here, Leonard Street, you'll see on there, Arena South. So it's exciting to see some of these centers of activity also generating higher levels of ridership. With that, I'll conclude. Maybe just a few other takeaways is that, maybe some of the increased sporting events downtown, like the Griffins going later into their season. We've had the Grand Rapids Rise come to the fold here. So some of these major downtown sporting events also too are helping boost that ridership as well. And with that, happy to take any questions or comments.
Any questions? It's a great report. Be happy to, it'll be in the packet every month.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Not to put you on the spot, but do you want to give us a little bit of your background? And
Yeah, absolutely. So
I guess to put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. So prior to coming here to Mobile GR, started in February. I was at the Rapid for 5 years as the senior planner. I worked pretty much alongside Kevin and the planning department there at the Rapid. I led what we call the comprehensive operational analysis of the Rapid system. Is basically like a system redesign from 2019 to 2021, and kind of cut my teeth in the world of transit planning during that time. Prior to arriving at the Rapid, was involved in much more land use planning, writing of zoning ordinances, and things of that nature, neighborhood plans. So the thing that I've always enjoyed about my career, and the thing I always tell everybody, is that transportation and land use are married, and they influence each other very, very deeply and in a complex manner. And I can bring that expertise to Mobile GR that I'm really excited about. So
Sometimes it's a contentious marriage.
yes, not all marriages it's not always the honeymoon phase.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome. We're glad to have you at the city. Just want to say I'm a huge fan of the DASH program. I think it's branded very well. I know the increases in days up to 7 days a week again is really exciting to have the capacity to do that again. And excited to see that ridership is approaching back where it was before COVID, which is awesome. My question is, the program is meant to help meet the needs of a lot of different types of user groups. So downtown residents, commuters from outside of town, people coming in for events and things like that. Do we have any data as to what the user groups are that are actually taking advantage of it, as opposed to just any sort of insights that we can understand, like who's using it and why? Yeah, that's a great question. And in the past, we've done some on-board surveys to gather information about kind of demographic information of who's using it, but also to their trip purpose. I don't have that information on top of my head, but I know that's something that we've done in the past and we will be doing again in the near future as we try to hone in on, are people going to work, recreation, places of worship, and that is something that we definitely want to hone in on, because you're right, the DASH does try to accomplish a lot of different mobility needs. Yeah, that's great, and I would love to see that at some point too, once we're able to capture that, just because I think it would be insightful to see if there are certain user groups that maybe just aren't as aware of it. I think that would highlight some educational opportunities for us to be able to make sure it's inclusive to all types of riders. So, absolutely.
Commissioner, if I could add, we did
Sure.
mention in the budget presentation that we were going to be doing a commuter survey, and so some of the questions will be around if someone has utilized DASH. It will also be kind of tracking where the respondents of that survey currently reside, so that should give us some insight into a little bit, I think, of what you're asking, so.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you, Matt.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Updates?
Yeah, just a few things in the project updates I wanted to highlight for you all. There will be a public engagement event that will be happening next Thursday. The packet unfortunately does not have the actual time. I'm looking at Mr. Bartlett. The Lion Fountain two-way study, what is the time of that public engagement? 4 o'clock. So it'll be next Thursday, and that is to consider the two-way conversion of Lion and Fountain Street. So in case any of you all are interested, I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out.
Where's that at? I'm sorry.
That is going to be
Right here?
here.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. And then also we have an announcement of our new mobile GR director, Jessica Smith. She'll be relocating here from Alaska, and so she will be starting with the city on June 24th. So as a reminder, we do not have a July meeting. However, you will all have an opportunity to meet her at the August meeting, if not prior. So the vision is, since obviously she's never observed a meeting, and if you recall last month during the meeting, they had the interviews, and we kind of had to step away and coordinate who was going to go on the bus tour. So her and I will likely co-lead the August meeting, and then we will transition her into facilitating on behalf of the staff for September. So those are the main highlights I wanted to point out in project updates.
Great. Any questions on those?
Looking at the micromobility, do we have hourly ridership data for that? I imagine Lime has really good data. I'm just wondering how and when people are taking it, similar to Dash.
Yes, we do have a hourly breakdown of rides, and that's something that I can provide at our next meeting, so you get some insight into that. But typically, you know, between hours of 5 to 9 is usually the peak of that, but there are some, you know, kind of middle of the day spikes in activity as well. So we are seeing ridership, you know, all throughout the day. It does run 24/7, so pretty much every hour of the day people are using it to get around downtown and the surrounding neighborhoods.
Yes.
I had a question with regard to last month, and Max, I'm kind of looking at you, not to put you on the spot, but I'm sorry, the other Max. We had clearly, and we received more communications this month, overwhelming response to the permit idea, and a lot of questions and concerns about communication. Have you seen on the website or any online to maybe help us understand, have people followed through and tried to look for more information or approached you for more information? And also, finally, second thing, have you uploaded or provided any more information online for the public?
So we have, I guess, decided not to move forward at this time with the proposal. So we didn't provide any updates to it other than that communication. So we didn't do like a frequently asked questions sort of thing because we're not moving forward with the proposal. So definitely a lot of lessons learned from that. So we basically tried to do a little extra engagement with the process. So it, I think, caused confusion, which is something I definitely learned from, because people thought we were trying to rush it, when in fact we were coming to them very early on in the proposal. So they confused that this meeting last month was the public hearing for the event, when it was not, and we were fairly early on in the process. So I think doing things like a website that clearly explains that, and then being more clear with the neighborhood associations when we meet with them about that process will help avoid some of that miscommunication, which I'll take ownership for. Like I said, we just wanted to try to involve the neighborhoods as early as possible to give them kind of the respect to go for it, and it just resulted in miscommunication. So while we don't have a specific frequently asked questions or extra information for that proposal, because we're tabling it for the foreseeable future, we certainly will going forward, and we'll have a more clear plan when we do these things, so folks know that they're going to have multiple opportunities to provide feedback, and then we're not rushing it at all.
Great, thank you. Of course, hindsight. Easier said than done,
Yeah.
right? But, no, I
It's
think
important to
that's-
learn from it.
Yeah,
As long
right
as
on,
you do that.
thanks.
If I can really fast before you jump in, Commissioner Robbins, we did decide after the last meeting, I think collectively as a group, that we were going to take the policy itself back, and staff is going to kind of maybe re-envision it and come back to this body to, for a discussion item. And so, because obviously we had a lot more public comment that we wanted to give everybody an opportunity to review, we did not bring that back at this meeting, and we will do so at either the August or September meeting. And when the new mobile GR director starts, we can talk about the sequencing of when the discussion for the potential proposals will come forward back for a vote.
And in that same vein, we are also looking at the way we communicate about the current policy and adding those questions that people had to that. So we're absolutely updating that page, just not specific to that proposal.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that, that we have reviewed every public comment that we've received and are also looking at what other communities are doing as we pursue that process of looking at the policies. So very much a fine-tooth comb, all of the lessons learned, you know, what everybody else is doing. We did this a few years ago. It was actually the very first thing I spoke before this body about. So we're happy to be revisiting that again in depth.
Commissioner?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I will say two quick things. I don't think the burden is completely on mobile GR and communication. I think there was a lot of misses, quite frankly, with the neighborhood organizations and how they communicated to the residents as to what the process was going to look like. So I've been in touch with them and with other individuals who showed up to explain what that looks like. So I want to make sure that was noted. Second of all, too, I know we had a group that I think represents a certain demographic come express their thoughts as it pertains to the program, and I will say I've received personally support for the program as well, or just support for the idea. So I do think it was the right decision for us to table the conversation for now, given a lot of the other projects going on downtown. But I will say I think that there's certainly some appetite to see what other similar options there are in that vein, and see what we could make work down the road if there is an appetite from a resident perspective. So.
Absolutely. I appreciate you saying that, too.
Yeah, I just wanted to publicly thank you as well for all of the work that you've done with communication. I know it can be challenging, especially to have like the onslaught. So just thank you for everything you've been doing. I wanted to echo the comment about the neighborhood associations. I know that you mentioned to me that this was an issue. I'm wondering if there is a way to not bypass them, because they do play an important role in communicating changes in the city to the residents, but I'm wondering if we can have some more of a direct relationship to sort of get rid of this maybe passing on information that becomes diluted and less accurate.
Yeah, and that was, I think, the lesson that I learned, or that was most clear coming out of this, is that we were not able to have a targeted communication with them. It went to everybody. So we just have to approach going forward. We can engage with them and speak with them, but we just have to understand that this is something that will go to everyone equally, and then we have to Commissioner Clark's point, make it available on our website and drive traffic to that, and not ask them to take the message and pitch it their way. So I still think there is absolutely a need to go and engage with them. We just have to be, I don't think we can do staged releases of it like we did this time. We have to be ready to announce it to everyone at step one, and then be able to support that with our own website and communications.
Yeah, definitely. I also just want to say, too, that, you know, I would be supportive of implementing such a program here. I mean, even with the comments we received, you know, I think a lot of it stemmed a little bit from the idea that, like, you own the street in front of your house, but the reality is the city owns the street. So, yeah, I would be supportive of implementing this type of program, however we decide that looks. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I think and I'll make it quick, I think two things that I think of is that overall, as I've understood the RPP project has been, the goal, the intent of it is to help, you know, those who live in the city. I think the other thing is at some point there seemed to be this connection, especially with the west side, to the you know, upcoming soccer stadium, when, as I understood it, that was never why we were doing this, right? It was the data that we saw that caused us to believe that there might be a benefit. So
and
I think
the concerns that data may increase with the soccer stadium,
right.
But you're right, the data alone justified the implementation for the program that we had, or at least to propose it. So.
Yeah, I think with that said, I like the idea as an idea with the intent of, you know, helping the general public within Grand Rapids, so. Yeah, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just from my perspective, I think I appreciate staff stepping back and in essence listening to what we heard and trying to accommodate those, you know, those conditions that maybe existed before that, you know, whether it's communication or otherwise, that we can correct. So all of us in our daily lives, business or otherwise, have stepped on maybe a landmine once or twice, and the only way to prevent that from happening or correct it is to listen and then step back and really engage a little more. So I think there can be a positive that comes out of this, and that's the intent. So, anything else?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Max. Yeah, that's going to be difficult, Max and Max. But exactly.
I mean, we did used to have two Joshes.
I
So
know.
we've just now cycled it out
I
for
know.
Max, so.
We need another Jennifer. Okay, I'll now open the floor for general public comment. The board would appreciate, again, having you state your name, although it's not a requirement. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to give general comments?
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. My name is Timothy Likens. I live at 1120 Lake Michigan Drive. I also commend staff. I personally agree with all of the conversation that was just been had. It's difficult to engage the public in a way that is meaningful and productive as well. I know that's very difficult. So I appreciate what's been done. I'm sorry that it was a landmine that you stepped on and that it brought the public out in force. But I will say there's some of that on our neighborhood association too. I'm new to the neighborhood, so I'm learning what that dynamic is like. But I do intend to attend their meetings as well, because I think SWAN, John Ball, whatever we're calling it, is we have an obligation to communicate with you as well. But I think our largest concern moving forward is information, and you had asked about how we're able to access information. That is also a difficult thing, but these are transformational projects that are occurring. When we do talk about the amphitheater and the soccer stadium, that we don't know what the impact is, and we don't know what the existing condition is other than what's on our own block. I walk around the neighborhood and I drive and see things, but I think for a lot of us, the shock to us in hearing the proposal on the news was we don't have a parking problem, so why is this all of a sudden option one? And we weren't privy to the staff discussions and other ideas that may have been tossed around. So although the intention was to bring us in early, unfortunately we felt like we were running late, as was mentioned. So whether it's parking studies, parking data, information, whether it gets passed through the neighborhood associations or directly to residents with here's the link and on a flyer and some information, we need to be further educated. And we trust, excuse me, I think we trust that the city and staff are making the best decisions that you possibly can with the information that you have in challenging circumstances, but we want to be a part of that conversation. So I do implore the commission and staff to, and our neighborhood association and us as residents to do better, talking ahead of time instead of after a landmine. So thank you all for your time, and thank you staff for your efforts.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. On that note, we are adjourned. Thank you.